welcome to, oh, now I see what you're saying on my slide right here. I have week 3, which is totally wrong. Night
That's what
3.
I said. It's like, it's not week.
Yeah, I knew. You were right. Welcome to night 3, the beginning of week 2. After Wednesday, we will officially be halfway done, which is very exciting. Night 1, we covered the basics of the UI of Tableau, how to click around and navigate. Night 2, we started building some simple charts with the bar chart, line chart, and scatter plot. Night 3, we will go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different chart types, all in Tableau, kind of building off of the fundamentals that we learned in night 2. Night 4, we'll get into kind of how to analyze some of those, and then the rest of it is going to be really just bringing it all together into really cool, complex dashboards, different actions, filtering, parameters, and different. So, really good progress. Like I said last week, this class always just like flies by, but really proud of where we're at, and we'll just kind of keep going here. So, before we get going, 2 quick things. 1, apologies for not getting here at 5:30 if anyone was planning on hopping on early. I will, if you just Slack me, like I said, I get paid by the hour, so anytime you guys want help outside of Monday or Wednesday, just Slack me and I can hop on. I'm actually free most nights. So let me know there. And then 2, on that same topic, I'm gonna have to get out of here right at 8 tonight. So the last hour where we normally just do like homework time, feel free to stick around. Like if you like work in a class and knock you out, feel free to do that. But I'm gonna have to dip a little early. Same thing though, if you have questions, Slack me, we can hop on tomorrow. And if you don't get your homework done by Wednesday, it's not a big deal. So those are the ones, the big things to cover. I'm trying to think about anything else. I don't think so. Let's get into it.
So, are there any clubs?
What?
Where one can practice Tableau, or like not clubs, but like a local community?
There's some user groups. I went to a few. We actually hosted one at Builder Trend, but that was probably 4 or 5 years ago. I'm trying to think.
That was COVID?
Yeah, probably. But you could click around. I'm sure there's like some community stuff out there with some Googling. I can actually follow up after class tonight too and do some research on my own to see if there's anything. And if there's not, then that means untapped market. Feel free to start your own here.
You can start your own club.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, like, so that our skills don't die on the vine, right? Once we, like everything, if we don't end up using it right away.
Yeah, it would be good. It would definitely be good to get involved. There's also, I've mentioned this a few different times, the Makeover Monday that Tableau does. I did that every week for a solid, gosh, probably not quite a year, probably like 6 months though. When I was first getting started, every Monday they post a data set in like an ugly visual and ask you to like replicate it using the same data. And there's literally thousands of people that do it every week. And so it's kind of cool, 1, to get practice like doing it yourself, but then 2, like seeing what other people are doing. And I really like that because it's not all the Tableau public stuff I've always been super intimidated by, because it's like, I'm not trying, like that's just crazy. But it was like pretty like useful stuff of like, what is the best way to do this? And people comment on it and you pick up some different followers on Tableau public and things like that too. So that'd be a good quick way to start. So this is what we're going to be covering tonight. It's going to be a pretty heavy hands-on night. Not a whole lot of teaching from me, which I'm sure you'll all appreciate. We'll do most of this just live together during our normal block. We'll create these kind of 8 different charts here, which are all great. I will go on a little rant at the end about the pie chart, and then show you how to make a donut chart, which I actually made at work today. I made 3 of them. So that will be good. All right, storytelling. Let's do, since I have to leave a little early, let's do 3 volunteers for their homework. Right here. Okay. You can start first. Give me a second. I will pull it up, Melanie. You slacked it to me, right?
I did.
You were quick with that hand too.
I was like,
oh yeah, I'm glad you volunteered.
I was
looking at yours. This is a really good dashboard. All right, all of you.
Okay, so I'm driving to here last week. There was on the news, they were talking about the Nations Report card. and how bad we still are. We're not coming back up. So it's been on the news like for the last couple of days. And I was like, well, let's just see if I can get the data. So I was able to get some. And then I did 8th grade math. And then I went just to see like how bad we are, how bad we still are, and kind of like how we are versus the United States. So the first one, the top one is basically Nebraska's in red, the kind of one of the top 9. So still pretty high compared to like California, national level, we're still kind of high, but like where it starts dipping, that's basically with COVID, and we're just barely like back up, but not back to where before the pandemic. So apparently for reading, it is worse, and then it's worse than ever, and then it's not going up. So I just did that. The bottom left, I did a box and whisker chart where so all the dots are different states. So Nebraska is in the top quarter. So in top 12 states, even though like we're not going back up, like everybody's the same. So again, we're still pretty good, and considering the top quarter is not bad. So doing pretty good. And then I did neighbors of Nebraska just to see how we were doing around. So still pretty good for us.
Perfect. Love it.
I got some help with the red dot and the.
What did they say? Yeah.
I was gonna say that one. We're gonna have to practice some more.
Melanie stayed a little late on Wednesday, and I helped her with a couple of these. And so I will, before we'll dive into our actual lessons tonight, I'll walk you guys through. Really, the 2 big things that we did was, hey, what's up? Getting just one dot to be a certain color and everything else in gray. So I'll walk you guys through that. And then the other thing is this really nice little annotation here where you can actually point to that specific dot.
Yeah, and it's kind of like light.
Yeah, but people on the computer can probably see a little bit better. You can annotate some stuff. So remind me before we dive in. I will walk you guys through how to do that. All right, let me unshare my screen here. Actually, I'll keep it open. And then Peyton, I think you said you would be good to go. Let me pull that up. Okay.
All right, so mine's pretty simple. I didn't have enough dimensions for all kinds of graphs, so I was only able to get 2. But I thought it'd be interesting to see how many total cats and dogs are in the United States. So the top part of the chart, they both say the same thing. I couldn't delete the right side of it, so I just had to stick with both of them. But so obviously there's more dogs and dog owners and cat owners, and then on the bottom you can see which state has the amount of cats and dogs. And I looked at Nebraska, and it looks like Nebraska has more dogs than cats, and then more cats than dogs. So, which I thought was pretty interesting. I do like animals, so that's why I chose it. So
Awesome.
It kind of matched that there's more cats because farmers like to have cats to pest control.
yeah,
So that actually kind of matched really well that there would be more cat owners.
right. Yeah, no. And then I figured out there's more homeless cats than dogs too. So
Yeah.
no.
Super
So,
cool.
yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
And where'd you get the data set?
I just got it on Tableau, so I
Nice.
just looked in the public ones and then searched up dogs and cats and found that one. So.
Love it. And Melanie, where'd you get yours?
National Reports card, you can search and then go ahead and then you have to query them in, but you can download data
Oh,
from
nice.
there. It's a little finicky, but you can download a lot of things.
I like it. All right, let's do someone virtually. Can I get a volunteer? Samuel, did you select yours? I think you did, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yep, here, I got it. All right, go ahead.
Right, mine is not all pretty, but this one I was just this is a shopping trend by year, so I was just looking for see what kind of product or accessories that a lot of consumer actually spend their money on. So it looks like on fall we spend a little bit over. I mean, not over, but it's not as much. So I would say spring and winter is where people usually focus on spending their money on clothes and just for the season differences. And I got this data from Kaggle. I think it's called Kaggle.
Nice. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Samuel. Kaggle is an awesome resource. So they have tons of free data sets. They also have competitions.
Yes.
So it's kind of cool. They do big, like giant, like Fortune 100 companies will actually like open source problems that they are facing and put giant cash prizes behind them. So here, let's just pull it open right now instead of me trying to make up an example.
Why do they do it? So people can find trends that they're not really.
Yeah, I'll show you here. Okay, what are the odds I can get my, oh, it's autofilled. Please be right. Sweet. So some competitions going on right now. This is AI Mathematical Olympiad. Solve national level math problems, challenges using artificial intelligence models. So this is hosted by the Artificial Intelligence Mathematical Olympiad. Prizes and awards, $2 million. So I don't know exactly what this company is. Spur open development AI models, somebody that's wanting to get into the AI space. So instead of going and hiring, like, you know, I mean, I don't even know what an AI engineer is going for these days. Let's say $500,000 a year, going hiring like 4 of those to like build this. They have 1,200 teams competing for this, and they get the best solution from those 1,200 teams. They pay them out $2 million one time, don't have to have them on salary, right? But they have 1,200 of the smartest people in the entire world participating to solve this problem for them. So it's a really cool thing. Anyone can enter them. There's also, you know, there are like free fun ones as well too. I enter one every year for the March Madness tournament. It's like a $50,000 cash prize. I don't think I've ever been cracked like the top 1,000, but there's like 50,000 people enter it. So I'm always above half, which I figure if you're entering a competition, you're one of the smartest people in the world, so being above half is like a good place to be for me. But it's super cool, and they also have a ton of free data sets. It's kind of structured like data.world, if you guys have used that before too. It's really cool. The Titanic Survive model, this is like the hello world of machine learning. If you guys ever want to get into machine learning, instead of using Superstore and Tableau, you'll use the Titanic Survival data set. That's super cool. So thanks, Samuel, for bringing that up. I appreciate it. Definitely feel free to check it out. And if anyone wins $2 million, you owe me like a 1% referral fee for showing you guys.
I got another 1% as well. So.
There you go. Sweet. Let's do one more volunteer, in person, remote, whoever wants to go. Sweet. Give 1 second here. I need 5 fingers too, right, Liz?
I did.
Boom, right there. Grizzly attacks on it.
Yeah, so I did bear attacks and maybe less, and I wish I would have found better data set because this one was a little difficult to work, but it's kind of neat to see how many grizzly attacks there were dating back to the 1900s, and it does look like they're getting more and more frequent.
Oh.
And then the number of attacks by type of bear between black bears, brown bears, and polar bears. So
Interesting.
best bets. That shows it's polar bears, but I think those would be the ones that I would try to avoid the best.
Sweet.
And then I
Where'd you
got
get
that
this?
from Tableau.
Data World.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Thank you all for volunteering. As you can tell, I don't really keep track of that. So honor system, if you guys haven't done it yet, do a really good job tonight. You can volunteer on Wednesday. All right. Let me share my screen again. All right, so I'm going to kind of split tonight into 2 sections here. The first, call it 4 here, text tables, highlight tables, heat maps, and dual axis charts, is actually a really logical progression of like kind of how I typically would start with an analysis just to get data on page and then start finding some trends and then build something that's a little bit more consumable for my end users, like text table and highlight tables as they sound. are really straightforward. You can kind of see everything all at once. You get a good understanding of what's happening. And then heat maps and dual axis charts are a little bit more visual, which I typically use if I'm publishing something where other people will be consuming it. If we have time, we'll get to the bullet chart. I actually think I added this in last semester because someone asked about it, but not in my slides. So remind me at the end if you guys are curious, we can get into that one. The tree map, Gantt chart, and pie charts all have very, very specific ad hoc cases. So that'll be kind of the second section of tonight that we'll get to just to show you guys how to do it. Again, this early in your guys' kind of Tableau journey, as many different things you can build, as many different ways, it's just going to be really, really good for muscle memory and repetition to understand where things are at. So even if some of these, like the tree map and like the heat map, are things that I do not use very often at all, but it's still good practice for using Tableau and understanding how data is structured and how to visualize things. So we'll get a really, really good understanding, like I said, of 8 different things tonight as opposed to just the 3 that we're really dug into deep last Wednesday. Heavy hands-on, 8 different chart types. Again, the ones last week were the big heavy hitters, but these will really set you apart as visualization specialists. They all have very specific use cases, which we'll talk about tonight. Yeah, I already talked about this. Ins and outs, comprehensive understanding. Okay, before we get into it, there is, when I first started teaching this class, like 3 or 4 years ago, to prep, I watched all the classes of the instructor that taught before me. And he did an entire night on like UI design, which I did a little bit last night, or on Wednesday, and a little bit tonight with this one law. But it's really, really good. I have it linked in here. He is an actual designer, so it made sense. Yep, and this is what's awesome about all of these being published on YouTube still. I'm gonna drop it into Slack right now so I don't forget. He was awesome, the class was awesome. I learned a ton. I'm structuring mine a little bit more. It's just the way my brain is structured, a little bit more analytically and less like creative. So I'm only gonna cover one of his laws that he went through, but there's this super awesome page that I'll show you right now. This is the laws of UX.com. I'm not sure who came up with the laws, but here are the laws of UX. And again, UX stands for user experience. So you'll typically hear UI, UX, which is user interface and user experience. So how it looks and the experience that your end user ultimately has. There's a ton of different things on here. Aesthetic usability effect. Users often perceive aesthetically pleasing design as design that's more usable, right? You make it look pretty. They think that it's easy to use. You can click into each one of these. It has some takeaways and further reading. It's a really cool resource. And like I said, the YouTube link I dropped in the chat, there's an entire 2-hour, 48-minute lesson on it. So if you guys like this kind of stuff and want to learn more, There's 2 awesome resources for you. The one that I have on my slide is called Jacob's Law. Users spend most of their time on other sites. This means that users prefer your site to work the same way as all the other sites they already know. This is was a crushing realization for me as a very novice, excited data scientist, data visualization specialist. I wanted to make really, really cool stuff, and I would spend hours and nights building something that no one had ever seen before because I thought it would impress them. And then I'd pull it up and I'd spend 30 minutes trying to explain to them how the chart worked as opposed to what the data was. And then you have your executives that are like, hey, I really, like right now I use Excel and I like the way Excel works. Can you just make it look like Excel? And you're like, oh, but you can do such cool stuff in Tableau, right? So I'm gonna go through tonight a few different chart types that I think are really good and a few different chart types that I think are really cool, but not necessarily good for an end user. The way that this is applicable from a UX experience, how people design websites, how we should design our chart types and dashboards, is people spend a majority of their time looking at other charts. So that means that they prefer your chart or your visualization to work the same as the ones that they already know. They want to be able to look at it and understand what it means. We should build something that they can look at and instantly understand what it means. Yeah, I think that's about it. All right, I'm not going to go through any of my beautiful slides. I made these slides like 3 years ago, if you guys can't tell, and now I just kind of do it live. So let's go ahead and open up Tableau. and just go through it together because I think that's more engaging as opposed to me presenting PowerPoint. So open up Tableau Public.
I think we're stuck online.
Okay, I'll refresh that real quick. Appreciate that. I'm gonna try something
Can we
different.
dim gently whenever you get a chance? Just like slightly.
Yeah, I can do that. Let's try sharing it this way and see if that helps. Remind me later. Okay, open up Tableau Public. I'll dim it in just a second. Connect to Microsoft Excel, connect to your Superstore data, bring over orders, and click into sheet 1. And we are off into the races. Nope, that's worse. Whoa. Some sort of prank light switch.
Did you get a cowboy switch?
Yeah. There we go.
Thank you.
So I was having this issue when I was doing my homework yesterday, and half the time it just has that the problem or whatever.
Oh, it may be. Oh, I think you just need to drag this over before you get going. Yeah. Just jump the gun a little early. You connected, but you still have to drag over orders. All right. So we're going to start with making a text table. So let's go ahead and across the top, drag over regions, right? So that will be in columns. And then across the side, let's drag over, let's do subcategory. So it should look something like this.
Which one's on the top in columns?
Region in columns, subcategory in rows. Now, anytime that you guys see in Tableau a little ABC, like it's showing here, that just means that there's no data to display. So it just gives you this blank kind of like text thing, right? We have our region, we have our categories, but we have no measure on there. So that doesn't have anything to display. So these are all blank. So
is that a SQL thing or is that a Tableau thing?
no, it's just like, yeah, it's a Tableau thing. It's just like, it's just what they use to fill it, the white space, so that you can understand how it's gonna look, even though there's not actually data in there. It's really nice for designing stuff. I've had people ask me before though, they're like, I think I broke something, I'm just seeing ABC everywhere. It's like, no, you just don't have any data in there yet, so you're fine. Now we're going to drag, we wanna show sales. Where do you guys think we will drag sales?
Rows.
Okay, let's try it. We drag it onto rows. We get this little bar chart. We drag it onto columns. We'll get another bar chart. We just want text in there. Where would we drag it?
Detail?
Details close.
How about to the text right there?
Yeah.
There.
So to show you guys how detail works though, I'll drag it there. Now if I hover, right, see how you can see it in the detail there? That's a good use case for when you would use detail. But yes, there's a little text thing. If we drag it right there, our text will populate.
Okay.
So now, sales is actually the dollar amount that we made from the sale, right? So we made $33,000. But that's not very clear in this, right? Maybe someone thinks that we sold 33,000 accessories, right? So there is a way that you can display currency, which we will cover, which is actually super useful to use anytime, not just as a text table. If you guys hover over sales and get this little arrow, you should get this little drop up, and there's a default properties option here. And inside that, there's a number format. This will let you format your number. So automatic is how it automatically default goes to. If you wanted to show a number customized, like with decimal places or a negative number, or what the units it shows it in, the prefix or suffix, you can do it there. There's also currency standard, which will just give you your dollar sign and 2 decimal points. I like to go into currency custom because it gives you a little bit more options here, a few more options. So you can see most of these are in the thousands, so I don't think we need decimal places. So you can toss that down to 0. And then display units. This is going to show it to you either in thousands, millions, billions, or jillions, I guess. Is that what's after trillions? No, trillions. So let's go ahead and select thousands and hit OK. So now, instead of 33,864 or whatever it was, it's just going to show 34K.
You're frozen again.
Okay. What I tried did not work. Thank you. All right, so we got region here, subcategory here, sales is on the text. Then all we did to change this was click the arrow on sales, default properties, number format, choose currency custom, take the decimal places to 0, and display units thousands. Everyone got this? Head nods, thumbs ups. Cool. Let's just call this, let's rename it and call it a text table. Actually, let's use what we learned last night and call it something better. Let's call it rename sales by region and subcategory. If we do that, then we can right click on region, hide that, and right click where it says subcategory and hide that. And now we have our subcategories here, our region here, and the total sales. It's a text table. It's boring. Executives love it. But it's also really good. Like I said, there's kind of a natural progression. It's a really good place to start if you're doing EDA, exploratory data analysis. Someone asks you the question, what are our top sales by region subcategory? You can view this right away and instantly start digging into it. So the pros of this, it's a format everyone's familiar with. You can see the details very clearly without having to hover. The cons, you can really only show one measure easily at a time. Right here we're showing sales. So if you wanted to show multiple things, it would start to break down a bit. You could do it. You could bring profit over here on text too, and then it starts getting really ugly. You don't know which one's sales, which one's profit. It's really convoluted. They all run together. So you can't easily show more than one measure. And it's also really difficult to spot trends, right? That's the nice thing about charts is you can easily see when things go up and things go down. If someone asked me what's my top subcategory region, I'd have to look in here. We have a 102 here, a 101 here. So it looks like this. The lowest one, looks like we have some 1Ks. We rounded them, so we don't know if anything's lower than that, right? So it doesn't easily pop out, but it's a good start. Now another little Tableau tip and trick. If I want to build a chart that's super similar to the one I already have, normally we click new sheet and start from the beginning. There's this little option right here where it looks like there's 2 little charts right on top of each other. You hover over it, it says duplicate. If you click this, it'll keep exactly what you already have and just duplicate it here. So like I said, there's a natural progression that we're going to build on top of. So let's keep the text table to start and go from there. Now, we'll build this 2 different ways. We're going to build a highlight table. The first way that you can do this, yeah.
So sales right now, if I also want to add that to tooltip.
Yep.
It can't be just added to text, it can be added to tooltip as well, right? I can drag another one from the left column, add it to tooltip, and then
Yeah.
adjust the currency if I want to see the details of the currency.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we changed the default properties for our entire sales data point here. So the question was, well, what if I want to be able to hover to see the detail? Let's actually do that. So what I would do here is I'd click this little arrow here and click duplicate. So now you have a sales, which is the one that has the currency, and this duplicated sales, it says sales copy. All we need to do, right, if we drag this on the details right now, now when I hover, it'll show both of them, but they look exactly the same, right? But now that I have the copy, I can change that default property back. So if I hit the arrow, default properties, number format, and let's just go back to automatic here. Now when I hover, I have my sales copy with the exact detail, 43,819, and the sales that I'm showing, 44K. I think that's confusing to have them both in there. So this is really good practice. Thanks for asking the question. Let's change what our tooltip looks like. So to do that, all you have to do is click into tooltip here. It'll bring up this little text editor. And you can see by default it has region. Anything that's in these little brackets here is a data point. So this is just text. You can make this whatever you want. Right, region, ASDF, ASDF, South. But then the data point itself is going to stay the same. So all we have to do is get rid of, we want sales in parentheses copy. Let's not call it copy, let's call it like detail or something smart. And then let's just get rid of this sales one. Now we're actually showing two different data points, but to our end user, it looks like one, right? We pull this over. On the text, we have our sum of sales, which is our data point. We changed the default property to be this rounded currency. And then in the details, we have the sum of sales copy, which we changed the default property to just be automatic, so we can see the details there. Great question.
So we can take it even further and like do like a calculation, copy one, do some calculations, tie it back to the tooltip. Like you can really use the tooltip to
do a ton of stuff. You can actually embed entire other views in your tooltip. So if I wanted to have a chart out here that was like something we made last night, like profit versus sales. For the rest of class, anytime I say last night, I mean the last time I saw you, so Wednesday, not me and Matt weren't hanging out on Sunday, I promise. Last night means Wednesday. So where we did that scatter plot with there's like sales and profit or whatever, I could make that to where I hover over this. It would actually pull up that chart in the tooltip and show the scatter plot. They're super cool, super powerful. You also mentioned calculations, which we will get to maybe Wednesday. But you can make your own data points in here using calculated fields. You can type all sorts of like if-else logic in here. But we'll get to that later. Any other questions on the text table before we move on to the highlight table? Cool. So we duplicated this one because we're going to just build off of it. We're going to build a highlight table a couple different ways to show you guys how it works. The first way, which is not a cheat code way, I still build most of my charts this way just because it's quicker. Let's use our handy dandy little show me table. You can hover over each one of these, and down at the bottom it tells you what type of chart it is. We just did the text table. The highlight table is in the top right. If I just click this, automatically here I get a little highlight table. Now, something changed. What changed?
X and Y axis switched.
Yep, X and Y axis switched. Why did it do that? I don't know. But it's a good opportunity to show you guys a really simple way to flip those back. I think I actually showed you guys this before, right? If we wanted to switch them, we could do this. Right, drag whatever was on rows up to columns, whatever was on columns up to rows. If you want a super quick way, there's this button right here. It shows 3 little dots going up and down, 3 little dots going across, and a little arrow going between them, swap rows and columns. You just click this, flip flop, flip flop, flip flop, and it will automatically write regions on columns now. I flip it, regions on rows here. So the pros of a highlight table, it's still a format everyone's familiar with. You can still see the details very clearly. And now it's easier to spot trends, right? So I can easily go and see where my heavy hitters, well, I got 102 here, 96 here, 101 here, 99 here. Where are my smaller ones? Looks like I have this row of 1K. Fasteners don't sell anywhere, no matter where we're at, it looks like. So it pops out a little bit more. There's also, just for the sake of showing you guys an example, sales is all positive here, right? So it goes from 1K up to 102K. If I were to bring something like profit into color instead of sales, it can also go negative. So here we have negative 11,000 to 19,000. This one's super easy to spot trends because it goes from negative to positive. So we lose 39,000 on tables, it looks like. Oh, I'm still showing, whoops. There we go, I hadn't updated my text. We're losing 11,000 on tables. But we'll stick with what we have here. And you can change these colors, right? So it's blue by default. If I click into color here, right, the one we were just looking at, one that I use a lot is like this temperature diverging. You can reverse it here. So really low is red, really high is green. You can do something like that. If you like purple, you can change it to purple. Something like that. Any questions on highlight tables? I promise we're building into something cool here. Highlight table. Just changing the names of these, so when I publish it, if you guys want to go and find them, it's easier to find. Cool. All right. Let me get rid of this one. Once again, let's duplicate this sheet. We're going to keep building off of it. So click this little duplicate button. Once again, we're going to go up to the show me. And now we're going to click this top middle one. It's called a heat map. So if we click into this, we get this really ugly looking thing here. It once again flip-flopped my rows and columns. So let's flip those back. So we should still have region on the columns, subcategory on the rows. And now we have this really abstract art looking thing that should be hanging up in the Jocelyn. The way that this is currently working is the size of each one of these squares denotes the how many sales it is. So you can see the big ones here, right? 102, 96, 100, 98. And the really small ones right here's our fasteners, those tiny little dots. If you want to make this bigger, because these are kind of all the same size in my opinion, up here where it says standard, you can fit the width, which would bring it down, or you can fit the height, which would bring it this way. What I typically do is select entire view, so it takes up the entire thing here. But the cool thing about heat maps, other than you can easily spot these trends here, is you can actually bring in multiple dimensions. So typically how I see people use this is one dimension, like we have right now, which is the sales, which is just the size of it, but they're all blue, right? So let's take profit and drag that onto color. Now we have a combination of kind of the two things that we did right before this, where you can see two things relatively quickly. You can see the size, where we have the most sales, and the profit, which one is the darkest blue. So I can easily see, okay, accessories in the West are really profitable, and we do an average amount of sales in it. We do an average amount of sales in the East, but we lose a ton of money on tables. It looks like all our tiny ones here, low sales, low profits. But the cons, it's not a format people are familiar with. Even in this class, we just had to spend the first minute of this explaining how the chart worked, right? So I couldn't just publish this and expect people to figure it out. And you can't see the details, right? There is nothing, you can see generally where your big heavy hitters are, where you're losing money. But again, you're gonna need to hover over this and say, okay, 9,000 in profit, 96,000 in sales. We lost $11,000 in profit on tables, even though we've done $39,000 in sales. So it's cool. Pros and cons. I've used this once or twice in my life. There's a time and a place for it. But the cons of this and the pros of the other two lead us to my favorite chart, which I use all the time, which is called a dual axis chart. So before we get to that, anyone have any questions on the heat map?
Kind of curious on what you used it for.
There's actually something super similar to this. I used it, you don't really need it for something this small, right? 4 regions here, and there's probably a dozen or so subcategories there. When I used it, there was probably 50 different things across the top and a couple hundred down this way. So going through a text table was not going to work for me. And a highlight table, you can only show one dimension at a time. And I was like, okay, I just need to figure this out real quick. So you toss something like this in, and then you just kind of look and see for the only real things that you care about are like, what are the super big ones and what are the super red ones, and like find those right away. That's your insight, and you can take those and build something prettier from it. So I didn't use it for like a display thing. I used it for like an EDA thing.
Yeah, all right.
But there's a better one that I'm going to show you. So let me rename this. I use the heat map, right? Good. Okay. So the next one is called a dual axis chart. Let's go ahead and create a new sheet because we're going to kind of start from scratch here. Is my display still good? I haven't frozen yet.
It just stopped sharing.
Just did? Wow. I'm developing some sort of sixth sense.
Jinxed it. It was fine.
I knew it was too good to be true. All right, here we go. So let's drag category on the columns. And then, actually, wait, I'm trying to think of how I want to do this. No, let's stick with the same examples we were doing. So let's drag category off, drag region on the columns, and then subcategory also onto columns. So we have something that looks like this. Now let's go ahead and drag sales onto rows. And profit onto rows. So this is what you guys should have here. Region on columns, subcategory to the right of that also in columns, sum of sales on rows, sum of profit also on rows to the right of that. Looks super ugly. We're going to clean it up. What we're going to do, we've never had this before. This is a new one for us. In our marks here, see how we have our normal color size, label details tooltip, but then underneath that it says sum of sales, and underneath that it says sum of profit, and we can click into that. We can now control the marks, the details, the labels, everything for both of our measures up here. So to show you what I mean, I'm in all right now. You guys don't have to follow along for this part, I'm just showing you. All right now, if I click color, change it to black, all of them to update to black, right? If I click into sum of profit, which is our bottom one right here, profit, and change just that color to purple, just that one changes. What I can also do, and do follow this part, right here where it says automatic bar, let's change that from a bar to a line. So now I have sales at the top in a bar chart, profit at the bottom in a line chart. And then this is where the magic happens. Does everyone have this so far? Cool. Right click on the profit where it says profit right here, the axis label, and select dual axis. All right, Tableau auto-corrected and changed some stuff, but don't worry about it. Now we have our sum of sales on these ugly little dots. We're going to change that in a second. And the sum of profit all on one chart, except we have two different axes, right? Sales is right here. Profit is right here. So let's make this look a little better and a little bit more readable. In our marks, click where it says sum of sales. You can see it changed automatic to a dot thing. Change that back to a bar. Now we're getting like somewhere. Now, just because these are some really harsh
Hey,
colors,
Charlie,
we're gonna do. Yep.
Can you repeat a step with converting it to the axis thing? Because mine didn't work.
Yeah, for sure. Let me just go back. So if you're at this spot right here, this is where you're at.
Yep.
Just right click into profit and select dual axis. And you should get this. That work?
Can you move your mouse? Are you frozen or?
Oh yeah, sorry, froze for a second. Did that work?
You're still frozen, I think.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but your screen isn't moving.
Okay. All right, so all you do is right click into profit and select dual axis, and it should pop this up. Did that work?
So when I right click, it doesn't. Let's see. Okay, it's good now. Perfect. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. So then all you need to do is go back to your marks where you see this little circle, sum of sales, and change that to a bar. Now let's make these colors a little less harsh. So still in my sum of sales, I'm going to change this color, add colors. It'll bring this up, click on sales, click on gray. There we go. That's a little easier on the eyes. Everyone have this so far? Cool. Now I'm going to show you guys a little tip that I like to do. Because right now what I like about this is a chart that everyone's familiar with. You can quickly spot trends. Look, here's our 101 for our phones, 96 for our chairs. Here's our negative 11,000 for our tables in the east. It's familiar that everyone's worked or used to looking at. I'm showing two different dimensions at once. What I don't like about it is it's a little convoluted. You can't easily see which are the details without having to hover, but you can see relative to where the axis is at, right? However, there's two axes on here. So if I'm looking at this blue little spike right here, is that 90,000 or is that 17,000, right? Well, it's 17,000, so that's profit. So what I like to do, let's rename this sales versus profits by region / sub category. And I think we talked about this a little bit on Wednesday. This title, right, is just by default the name of your sheet. But let's change it. Let's make our title a little bit more directional on what we're actually going to be looking at here. So let's double click into this. And that brings up this text editor for our title. Let's get rid of sheet name because we want to make this a little bit more dynamic. And let's actually type in sales versus profits. And I actually don't think we need region and subcategory. Those are pretty straightforward. So let's just call it sales versus profits. However, profits is our blue line. Sales is our gray line. So let's go ahead and just change the word profit, highlight it, and there's the little color option here. Let's just make it that blue. My display is a little wonky. And then that's kind of hard to see, so let's make all of it bold. It should be a little easier. And click OK. Now, I pull this up. Let's make sales gray, actually. Make it even more straightforward. Now I instantly look at this. Sales, gray. Profits, blue. I instantly know which is which. I can get rid of this region versus subcategory because that's pretty straightforward. I really don't need my color key anymore either, so that gives us some more room there. And voila, I have a beautiful little dual axis chart. I use dual axis constantly. It is just such a cheat code. If we weren't recording this and putting it on YouTube, maybe after I'll end the recording and I'll pull this up. For our internal dashboard at Buildertrend with all of our key metrics and KPIs, we have probably like 10 of these different charts all right beside each other. And the reason we did dual axis charts is because you can show two things at once. And so it's really like 20 different charts, all just condensed up. So it's a really, really efficient way for showing multiple things all at once in a way that people are familiar with, where you can easily spot trends. Is it going up and to the right or down or blah, 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 blah. Questions on the dual axis? Cool. Awesome timing by me. We are right at an hour. Let's take a quick 10-minute break and be back here at 7:06 p.m. CST.
So you said the budget now, I just wanted to make sure.
So to get it in dual, we always click in the axis and then select dual from there.
Yep.
Is there another place where?
That's such a good question. I actually think there is. No. There's not. I think you click in here. Yep. If you click up here into your measure, there's a dual axis option there as well too. So if I wanted to get it back to how it was, I would go in here and just uncheck dual axis and it'd go back this way. Back into dual axis.
Okay.
Here.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, I'm gonna run to the bathroom and get another LaCroix.
You're all good. Just,
That's what he said.
Yeah, but sometimes it just stays in there. Oh, the longer tree.
you said you did done Tableau before?
I've done other programs that are similar to
Very
this,
similar to it?
but for a long time. Like I have a lot of experience doing it.
Oh,
but
got it.
pushing into the specifics.
Yeah, once you know what to expect, you just, and terminology.
Is that?
Once you know what to expect, and the terminology is the same. Like I assume Power BI and some of the advanced stuff doing Excel probably have the same terminology because it's the same company.
And also, Razor's Edge.
Razor's Edge,
Yeah. It's another data.
and good.
Data, it has the data in it.
Cool.
I think this is the digital standard.
Tableau. I see, at least on LinkedIn, I see Power BI and Tableau. But it's hard for me to say. Companies usually don't disclose information. This is Salesforce, right? Salesforce.
Oh, yes.
Salesforce from. Oh, yeah, Microsoft.
It's the same base. It's like the same base.
Glad you showed me the calculations, because I was starting to make calculations in the source file.
Oh, yeah.
And then extra rows. It's much cleaner.
So right in here.
Less risk to pollute the master data.
Exactly, yeah. And we're actually, I lied, we are gonna cover one example of that tonight. So I can walk you guys through that.
For my proof of concept, I need to calculate, or try to calculate, there's a date and time when they made the booking. They collect approximate time when the
Oh, yeah.
vehicle showed up. So then I can, I don't know, that'll be, I don't know how Tableau can make the assumption that, okay, the time, because it's 2 columns of data, date and time, and then just time, that the time here is on the same dates as when the booking happened. Because they give me the time just
Oh, yeah.
approximately 11
Yeah.
a.m. But I want to go one minus the other, so I know the delta between when they make
Yeah,
the booking and when they show up.
Well, actually, that's the exact calculation that we'll do tonight, actually, funny enough.
Came to the right place?
Yeah. All right. I'll wait for Celeste to get back in here, and then we will get going. All right, let's go ahead and get going here. I'm going to cover 2 more quick chart types. And actually, that reminded me that we are actually going to cover some calculated fields tonight as well too. Then I'm going to go on a quick tangent about pie charts. And then we'll make a donut chart, and then we'll be good to go. So let's go ahead and create a new sheet. This one is going to be really quick, really simple. It's a stupid chart.
You're frozen again.
Okay, thank you. let's go ahead and get going. So super simple. Let's just drag subcategory onto columns, sales onto rows. And this is always like, it's just, I can't stress this enough. If you never like don't know which chart to make or can't remember how to make it, just get your data up here somewhere and then go to the show me. And here's like all the options that you can make. It's just such a quick way to make charts really easily. We're gonna make the tree map. So click into that and you'll be met with this monstrosity. So tree maps are, let me pull my slides back up so I can figure out why I think they're good. I don't. Pros, you show a large amount of items in a single visualization, right? So we have all of our different rows in here. Maybe that's too many. I mean, if you have like 100 or something, maybe this would be a good thing to do it so you wouldn't have to scroll through 100 different rows. You could just pop everything right in here. It's easy to approximate parts of the whole. So it's kind of like a pie chart, but worse. So you can easily see this entire block is all of our sales. The size and the color is how many sales there are. So you can see that like phones, chairs, and storage alone make up about a third. You can see like fasteners down here make up such a small amount of our total sales. So like maybe if you're trying to prove a point about why we should stop wasting time selling fasteners, you would bring this up and say, hey, see this little section right down here? That's fasteners. I don't know. I don't think it's great, but it's in the show me, so I wanted to make sure I covered it. Another nice thing about it is you can bring in like profit onto colors. So now same thing like we kind of did with that heat map here earlier, the highlight table, sorry. And the heat map, I guess, where the size can be your sales and the color can be your profit. And again, you can drag things onto your labels as well too. So if you wanted to show sales and profit here, you can do it this way. So it's a good way to like just get all your information all in one spot, right? You can see those same trends of where these things are negative, which ones are bigger. The data ink ratio is horrible. I think the coloring and scale of it all is kind of confusing. And negative numbers can be really confusing, right? So if I go back, instead of doing sum of sales for my size, if I drag profit onto there, right, I have these negative numbers, which it can't show anymore, right, because they don't take up space of a part of the whole, they subtract from it. But anyways, that's how you make a tree map. Any questions on those? I've never made one of those in work. Okay.
Great for relativity, though.
What?
If you care about relativity.
Exactly.
That's,
Yep, and I will cover that in my pie chart tangent that I'm about to go on. Okay, the next thing is a Gantt bar. So let me actually pull my PowerPoint back up so I can explain this before we build it so you guys can kind of see the vision. So a Gantt bar is, like I say in the pros, a really helpful chart type if you know when to use it. However, the cons of the Gantt bar, the use cases for it are kind of incredibly limited. The only real use case for it is if you were trying to show like a schedule or like project management type stuff. So the one that we use at work, we use a project management tool called Asana, where you can assign stuff out, but like a start date, end date, statuses, and things like that. If you want to visualize it, you can easily see like when the start date is, where the end date is. We actually have one of these at Builder Trend in our product. So what we sell to our customers, it looks like this. So this is how you build a house. Here's all the schedule items in a house. And you can see exactly what day they start on, how long it lasts. Some of them you have to wait for one to finish for the next one to start. So you can see the insulation gets done on May 14th, and there's this little line that comes down. Then they can start the drywall, and that goes a certain number of days. So you can see which ones are really quick. The roofing paper installed only takes 3 days here, but you have to get that done before you do something else. So that's a Gantt bar. Yeah, I say in here, most of them are awful examples that people have online. Just assume moving forward that the only real reason that you'd want to use one of these is some sort of schedule timeline. I was thinking like for your use case, this could be a good opportunity to use it where you see there's certain spots where people can park their trucks. This one's booked for 3 days or whatever. You see the 3 days of this block, but then after that, there's another opening there. So you could potentially build something like
See the
this.
overlap too.
Exactly, overlap.
Limited amount of space.
Yep. So there's right on May 9th, you can see that there's 4 different things going on. On May 5th, there's only 2 different things going on. So potentially whoever's building this chart or building this house could do some more things on May 5th. I don't know. But the reason I want to show it, one is when you have a use case for it and you actually build it for the first time. I was actually telling Kayla, who's this girl that's worked with me for 6 years, when she built the Gantt chart for our Asana board, which we just rolled out in January. I was like, I'm so fired up to actually have a use case for Gantt bars because I think they're really neat. So I wanted to show you guys because when you do have a use case, you'll be really thankful you know how to use it. 2, it's a really good teaser for next week and calculated fields. So let's create a brand new sheet here. And I want to show you guys a couple different data points that we haven't worked with before. So we have order date right here. And Tableau is nice. It has these little icons beside all of your data points. Globes are like geographical data. ABC is text data. This little calendar, you know, it's a date. So we have 2 dates in here. We have an order date and we have a ship date. We go back to our data source. I can show you guys what they look like, right? They're just 2 dates. So this order was ordered on November 8th. It was shipped on November 11th. So let's go ahead. So we have the order date and we have the ship date. In our heads, we can calculate that, this was kind of 3 days, but we actually need to create a data point. There's no data point in our data here that shows that took 3 days, right? We just have these 2 dates. So calculated fields, again, we'll do an entire night on it. I think it's next week, but don't hold me to that. An entire night on calculated fields, but a little sneak peek on how to make them. So let's create this little arrow right in the very top here. On top of your dimensions here, you have your search bar, a little filter, view data, and this arrow. If you click that, there's a create calculated field, and it brings up this little text box. Where did my, sorry, I lost you guys for a second. Brings up this little text box. There are,
How did you get there again?
Yep. It's this little arrow right at the top above dimensions. Create calculated field. So what this allows us to do, let me just show you guys the proof of concept first. I'm going to title this one test. And I'm just going to type in the number 1 right here. So when I'm creating a calculated field, what this is going to do, just like how you would do it in Excel, every single row, it will create it's essentially just a formula, right? So now in our source data at the very end, you see we have this row that's called test, and there's 1s all the way down. I just typed in 1. You can also do stuff with different data points in your data. So let me show you guys first. Let me just pull up an Excel and show you guys what I mean, because I think it's easier to visualize where you can actually see the data. So let's just say I have something that is like sales and tax. And this one I sold for $5. This one I sold for $2. This one I sold for $10. My tax on this was $1. My tax on this was 25 cents. And my tax on this was $2. If I wanted
You're
like
frozen
a
again.
Oh,
If you're sharing your Excel screen, I think you're frozen because we can't see anything.
yeah. Thank you. So if I had a table that looked something like this, and I wanted to know what my total profit was, or how much total I was going to bill someone for, how much it cost and the tax associated with it, right? We would all be able to do this. We would just type equals, and we would do this plus this, and I'd have a new data point now, where each one of these I'm just adding up what these are. That's exactly, and I would call this something else, right? I would call this total, I don't know. That's exactly what calculated fields do, is it's row by row, data point by data point, creating something new from it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna calculate the difference between our order date and our ship date, bringing things all the way back so that we can create a Gantt bar chart. So to do that, we're in our sheet, we click this little arrow, we create a new calculated field. We're gonna call this days to ship. Now, just like in Excel, there's a ton of built-in functions, and they're actually, if you guys don't have this little, there's a little arrow on the right here you can click. All the built-in functions are listed right here, so you can scroll through it. That's actually your homework for the calculated field night, is to just scroll through these and learn about some of them. But we're going to be using one called date diff. If you click into this, it gives you a little explanation of what it does. So date diff, what's in parentheses is what you need to enter in. It returns the difference between two dates, where start date is subtracted from the end date. The difference is expressed in units of date part. You can ignore the rest of this. If start a week is omitted, the week start is determined by the start date, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. So to do this, it's super easy. Let me make my text a little bigger for you guys. All you have to do, once you start typing date, it gives you all these options. You just click into date diff, it'll calculate for you, or type it for you. And then it gives you this helpful little tooltip as you're typing. So the three things that we need to give this function for it to work is the date part. That just means I have my start date and my end date. Do I want to calculate how many days are between it? Do I want to calculate how many weeks are between it? Do I want to calculate how many months, how many hours, how many seconds? What part am I trying to calculate the difference? And we're just going to type in, it's just a single quote, right? Not a double quote. Single quote, the word day, another single quote. And see how date part is bolded right now? As soon as I type a comma, my date part is done. So I know that I'm going to calculate how many days are between two dates, because that was my date part. Now, what's my start date going to be? Well, it's going to be the date it was ordered, right? So I start typing in order, and automatically you can see it pops up, order date. You just click that. Now you can see that start date is bolded as soon as I hit comma, pops up now end date is bolded. So what do I need for my end date? My ship date. Again, you start typing it in, you can click on it or you can hit tab, either way. Again, we'll do an entire night just on calculated fields. So I'm just kind of giving you guys a preview here so that you understand how it works, but if you're confused, don't worry, because we'll cover it in more detail. Do you have a question?
Yeah, if you wanted to do like a combination of 1.5 weeks or three and 3.5 months, something like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the question was if you wanted to do like a combination, so 3.5 weeks or something like that. What I would actually do for that specific example is I would calculate days first. So this would give me let's say it gives me 15. Then I would just go divide by 7, and then that would give me 2.1 weeks, right? Or if I wanted, how many months is that? I'd go divide by 30, and it would give me 0.5. So I know it's like half a month. So there's not a way to return an actual week and a half or whatever, but that would be how I would do it. One last quick thing on calculated fields in case you guys are go-getters and want to mess around by yourself. Every time I teach this class, people have a really hard time typing the right things. It's very picky about what you type. So single quotes always, not double quotes, okay? Single quotes always. Anything that you type between those single quotes is going to be gray. So this is gray. That just means that it's a text. You're just typing something. If it's orange, like order date and ship date are, that means that you are correctly referencing a data point. Sometimes I'll have people that will do something like this. They'll do ship date, and they'll be like, well, I typed in ship date, Is it orange? No. Then that means that Tableau doesn't know that you're referencing your data point here. So always make sure those are orange. And your functions should always be blue. So again, sometimes someone will type in like date, diff, something like that, right? This is black, not one word, it's not blue. And you get this nice little red thing that says this calculation contains arrows. So when in doubt, start typing and click, because then Tableau will give you the option that you need to have. All right, long-winded explanation of calculated field. If you guys have what I'm showing right here, go ahead and hit OK. So now let's go back to our data source and look at what we just created. The calculated fields are always all the way on the right. We have this new calculation, and it tells us, right? Calculation, days to ship, 3, 3, 4, 7. So if we look at this, 8th to 11th is 3, 8th to 11th is 3, 12th to 16 is 4, 11th to 18 is 7. So for every row, it took the difference between these two dates and gave us the number of days in our new field that we created, days to ship. So I was talking to Matt about this before. It's definitely best practice to do all your calculations in Tableau, because this doesn't exist in our Excel. It just exists in Tableau. So we can keep our source data pure and clean and not complicated at all. If I had pulled up that Excel right now, it would look exactly the same as the day I downloaded it, even though I have this new sales copy that we created, right? We have this new calculated field that we created. We have the test calculated field that I created. So sometimes I'll have workbooks that have like twice as many calculated fields as my source data, and I just built it all off of that.
Okay, it's great. Looks like it's great to clean up the data too.
Mm-hmm.
If I have messy data, it looks like.
Yeah, sometimes I'll do stuff like if my data is really ugly, and obviously this data is nice because it came from like the Tableau example. But like maybe some of my categories would be capitalized and some are lowercase. You can do like, there's a function just for like capitalized or uppercase, or sometimes there's like leading white space that you want to get rid of. Or sometimes there's like dashes and something after that, you can get rid of everything out of the dash. Anything that you do in Excel, you can do in Tableau.
Can you even clean up text? Like my customers have unique ways of spelling dry van in 50 different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Is there?
There's some hacky ways that you could get around that for sure. Tableau has a really, really good community, and I've never had an example where I Googled something and didn't have an example that something popped up that someone had already done in Tableau. Just like Stack Overflow, if you guys ever do any coding, there's examples for everything. All right, now give me 1 second to make sure I know how to build this, so I don't send you guys down a rabbit hole. Let me build it real quick, and then I'll walk you guys how to build it once I make sure I know how. Right there. No.
So even experts jack with it until it makes sense.
Yeah. Like I said, I've never built one of these before in practice.
I don't feel bad.
And I remember last time I taught this class, I was making everyone follow along as I was doing this, and I got really embarrassed. So I was like, let me just figure it out first real quick. They're showing me that it's not. It's really close. This isn't quite right. This is December 11th. It's going too far. Okay, got it. Okay. I think I got it. Let me make sure real quick actually. This can just be. I think this is gonna be really easy actually. First, let's not. Gosh, I wish I would have taken a better screenshot. Let's do this. Let's see if I published it. There we go. Download. This is why I always publish everything. 1 year later, you could be teaching the same exact class and not remember how you did something. Okay. Let's delete this monstrosity. Start from scratch. Okay. So we have our days to ship that we just created. We're going to bring our order date up to our columns. And we're gonna click into this and change it to an exact date like this. So here we have all of our potential order dates. If you actually hover over here, you can see that there's a million little tiny dots in here every time that something was ordered. To clean this up so we don't have 4 years of data, let's drag order date onto the filters and choose month, year. And let's just choose January 2014. We're just trying to clean up the data a little bit. So now we have 1 month on here. It's a little bit easier to see. We have all these kind of distinct dots in here.
You said January.
Yeah, it does. I did say that, but it doesn't matter. Just choose 1 month. All right, now we're gonna drag order ID onto rows. And we'll give you this little pop-up and say there's too many on here, but that's why we filtered it. So just go ahead and click add all members. I'll wait for a second here. Ouch.
So my months just have ABC. What did I do wrong for the month?
For the months, you should have drug it onto filters.
Okay, filter, and then I just click 1 month.
So order date, and then choose month, year, and then just click, yeah, January 2014 or something.
Okay.
This is doing the same thing, but it doesn't have like the month year option.
Interesting.
I don't know if that's a Mac thing because there's certain tiny things that are different.
Yeah, oh, sorry. Yeah, this one is just exact date like that. And then this one.
Hey, Hamza, what you having trouble with?
And it's month, year, that one.
So it's showing the tick marks are there. It's just not showing. It's like ABC. When I filter it by the month, it just shows me 1 month. It'll just show February,
Okay.
and then it'll be like ABC. So I don't know where the numbers are not. Why the numbers aren't telling.
Let's see. I'm trying to think. So you drug order date onto your columns, right?
Yep. Yep.
And then clicked the arrow and chose exact date.
Yeah, okay, I did now. It's exact date.
Okay. And then order ID onto rows and click add all members. And then the last thing we did was drug order date again onto filters.
Okay, that's, yep, order date to filter. Okay, I need to do that.
And then month/year, January 2014.
Okay. That should work. Cool, thank you.
Yep.
Skipped part of it.
What is that?
You originally didn't do the order ID, you just did the order date.
Oh, okay.
So we need to do the order.
Order ID goes onto rows.
The default of the filter I've noticed doesn't have a month and date. It has month, date, year, month and year.
What do you mean?
Like month and date. just month and date. You know, like his month, year, where you have highlighted month, day, year, but it doesn't have day and year, no, month and date.
Month and date, what do you mean by that?
So like 6/14 instead of 6/14/2014.
Right.
NNDDYYY.
Oh,
I
I see what you're saying, yeah.
I just remembered thing out there because it's so, well,
Gotcha.
date that popped in my head real fast.
Yeah, that one you'd probably have to do 2 different filters to get in there.
Oh,
All right, so then we have this thing, right? Here's our orders. And they're being displayed on the order date, right? So here's 9/7. Oops, I lost my order date filter. Grab this one, right? We hover over 1/28. You see that's on January 28th. All we need to do now is drag days to ship, the calculated field we just created, onto size. And voila. This was ordered on 1/28. It took 6 days. You see that it goes down here to February 4th or whatever.
what did you drag into size again? Dates to
Days to ship. Yes, our calculated field is made. So, why this is kind of cool.
Days to ship. Yeah.
scroll.
Yeah, I don't see days to ship.
So that was the calculated field we created. So you might have named it something different. That was this thing. So if you didn't name it days to ship, I think by default it's called like calculation 1 maybe.
Yeah, it's calculation 1 right now.
Yep, just drag that onto size. That's fine.
Oh, from what we did earlier. So I shouldn't have deleted that last one then, or?
And then single quotation dead. Drag, I can just pull it up real quick. There you go.
Ship date, order date?
Order date. Believe it or not, this is really, really good Tableau troubleshooting practice.
Date this, is it
So-
really length? It is A and B, like it keeps.
So it is actually the length. So days to ship right here is showing 6. And so since we drug that onto the size, it goes 6 different days, since we have order date on our x-axis here. So last thing we'll do, then we'll move on from the Gantt chart. We have a ship mode column that we haven't used before. If we drag that onto color, you can see that we have first class, second class, and standard class. So you can easily see, okay, our standard class can potentially take up to 28 days. Our second class, 10 days, 3 days, 8 days, 2 days, 3 days, pretty good. First class, 2 days, 1 day, 2 days, 1 day, 3 days. So you can potentially use this to figure out when you need to ship stuff, how long it's gonna take, where all your different orders are at, so on and so forth. That was a long journey.
How do you put them in order and have them like the ones you had earlier?
Yep. So if we wanted to put them in order, all we would need to do would bring order date also onto, I can never find it. Also up here, let's see which way. And then change this from a year to, let's do this one, a year. And then it makes it continuous. So you have to click here and change it to discrete. You can drag it in front like that.
Could you repeat that, please?
Yep. I did do that very fast. So this is what we had. When I drag order date up here, by default, it's going to make it a year. I want it to be individual days. So like this, the second one where it says May 2015, month, day, year. However, when I click that, it's going to make it green, which means continuous, which we don't want, because then we have individual axes for each row here. So if you click into that again and change it to discrete, then it will just be one date, not an entire axis. Then you just need to drag that in front. This is getting this is Tableau like 301 right now, so I apologize. You just need to drag it before order date, because then you can sort by it right here. I'll do it one more time, super slow, then we'll move on. So this is what we had, order date, order ID. We're gonna bring order date onto rows. We're gonna change it from a year by clicking this arrow into the second day option. Well, this is May 8th, 2015. It'll change to green. We'll have an entire axis for each row, which we don't want. So we're gonna click the arrow again, change it to discrete. And now for each order ID, we have a day. And then, oh, I guess you actually don't need to drag it in front. You can just click this little sort thing here and it'll sort by it. Yeah.
So is it important that you do that in 2 steps like you did? Like first click the days and then click discrete?
Yeah, it's just Tableau changes it because it's a really good question, right? Anytime you see a blue pill, these little circle things are called pills, it's discrete, right? Things that you can chunk up. So years are typically discrete, 2014, 2015, 2016. However, days, one would argue, are typically continuous, right? March 1st, March 2nd, March 3rd, March 4th. So when you change it to this day, it just assumes that you want it to be continuous. So here's all of our orders on our rows. And then it's saying, I'm going to give you a row for every day in here as well too. So we have January up to February, which is like typically what you do. So now it's green, but we want it to be discrete. We just want it to be one thing. We want January 1st, January 2nd. So then you change it to discrete. So you kind of have to do it in 2 steps. It's a really good question. All right. I apologize that I was not on top of my Gantt bar game there to start, but we did make it, which is cool. So make sure to publish yours tonight so that a year from now when you're teaching a Tableau class, you can pull it up and remember how to make it. And bar. All right, we're gonna fly through this last little section here, but it is one of my passions, pie charts. Pie charts are the most heated debate in the data viz world. Are they good? Are they bad? It's like Python versus R, Mac versus PC, and pie charts good, pie charts bad. If you want a deep dive, just Google, are pie charts good or bad? There's a million different articles all about it. What do you mean I'm not supposed to use it? The issue with it, don't use pie charts. Pie charts are evil. It's extremely extreme. I like them in a time and place. Hashtag justice for pie charts. They do have advantages. However, knowing what your data looks like and what you're trying to show makes all the differences. I'm going to cover just 2 or 3 quick rules of thumbs, but it really is a case-by-case basis. Also, How I Met Your Mother is my favorite show of all time, and Marshall goes through a chart phase where he prints out different charts. And he has his favorite bar is in a pie chart, and his favorite pie is in a bar chart, which is awesome. However, his pie chart actually sucks, and we'll cover why here in a bit. So why not to use pie charts? It has a very limited display of diversity, so they're not very effective at displaying categorical data when the number of categories exceeds 3 or 5. I must have copied this from someplace because I don't know why I'd say 3 or 5. I could just say 4. So the more slices in a pie, the harder it is to read at a glance, right? So here's something that someone had made using our Superstore data, ironically enough. You have your subcategories here. You can see these first, 3 or 4 main ones, looking over bookcase, printers, bookcases, Sari, phone, so on and so forth. The things get really convoluted over here. So not really good to show the differences there. And limited precision. So since it's an area-based representation and there's no axes, unless you add in labels for everything, you can't tell this is 13.5%, this is 13.18%. You can just kind of show approximately how much it is. And I don't know why, I think I've referenced the Weather Channel before. The news always loves to make 3D pie charts, and they like to tilt them, which makes it really, really hard to read, and also just not accurate because it doesn't appropriately update based on the orientation there. So why to use pie charts? Yeah.
It's good when you want to do like things adding up to 100%.
Oh, trust me, I'm a huge fan of pie charts. I'm getting to that right now. So why to use pie charts? Well, there's 2 main use cases. If you want your audience to have a general sense of the parts of a whole in your data, and I'll go through some comparisons here. So exactly what you just said. If you have 100% and you want to show the parts of the whole, pie charts are really, really good for that. If you had bar charts, for instance, which I'll show in my example, it's really hard to properly see that this 25% bar chart and this 20% bar chart, this 15% bar chart, this 10%, 10%, 10%, 5%, all eventually add up to 100, right? Pie charts are very easy to see. This is 100%. Here are my sections. And, or if you want to convey that one segment is relatively small or large. So what do I mean by that? First one, general sense of parts of the whole. Bar charts are actually really bad at this, right? This one's 25%, this one's 75%. It's really hard to A, tell that these two add up to 100%, and B, it's actually really hard to see that this is 25%. If I'm looking at this, I'm saying, well, this is about like a third as big as that one, which is technically right, but I think a third, I think 33%, right? It's kind of hard to convey that way. Or is it half? Is it exactly 25%? I don't really know. If I see a pie chart with 25% missing, we all know exactly that right there is 25%. It's really easy to see. Why pie charts are better than bar charts? Heck yeah. And then the second thing, if you want to show that one segment is relatively small or relatively large. So if I had a pie chart that looks like this, if we were using our data, we could show that like office supplies is almost 50% or takes up this huge part of our total sales. Or our appliances that we were looking at early is relatively small, so it's a really, really small percentage. So if you want to show this is a part of a whole, or this is big or small, pie charts are really, really good at that. So here's an example using our Superstore data that I made. Why is this good? There's maybe 3 things that we could pull from this pie chart really easily.
You're frozen again.
Technology is half the sales.
Yep, technology is about half of sales. What else?
Furniture is very seldom, I guess.
Furniture is very small. And then the third thing that you could easily say is all of our, I guess it's profits, all of our profits are made up of these 3 categories. 100% of our profits come from technology, office supplies, and furniture. Technology is about half. Furniture is barely anything.
It's good for your audience,
Yeah. 100%. And yeah, using Jacob's Law, people are very familiar with pie charts. They can pick that up, get that right away. We could go grab someone over at the Omaha Public Library. They'd be able to understand this right away.
It goes with people used to see pie charts, so they want to see pie chart. Even if they're not good or people don't like them, like it doesn't matter. People want to see them.
Yep, I made one today, and I'll actually pull it up because we're like 2 hours into our recording. So if people have watched it this far, they can see some proprietary builder trend data. I don't care.
You're frozen.
So here's like a couple examples, right? I would not probably show this pie chart. There's a million different things on here. It's really convoluted. However, if I highlighted like these 4 things, I could easily use this to say, hey, about over half of all of our profits come from copiers, phones, accessories, and paper. I could highlight this little green sliver in here, bookcases. Actually, that's a really bad example because profit's negative for that. So it breaks down.
Zoom in, but even the slice is too thin even after zooming in.
Right. Thanks, thumbs up for letting me know my screen was frozen. So if I have negative numbers, maybe I'd want to use like a bar chart or something like this to show that those are negative. All right, let's build one quick, and then let's build a donut chart, and then I think we'll be good for tonight. So let's open up Tableau again. Let's create a new worksheet. And this is so simple. It will be a nice mouthwash after our Gantt bar that we just built. Drag category onto columns. Drag sales onto rows. Click show me and click the pie chart. Voila, there it is.
What was the columns one? I dragged it.
Well,
It sticks.
columns is categories,
Thank you.
rows is sales, and then click the pie chart. If you guys think that the show me is stupid and you want to build it from scratch, that's totally fine. You would drag, this would be like automatic, you would drag category just straight onto color, sales onto size, and oh, here's our heat map or whatever they're called that we made earlier. Then you would change marks from automatic to pie, and then that's how you get it that way too. I just think it's always easier to drag on the columns and rows, get the data that you need, and click the show me. Now it's really small, so if we go over here to standard, remember we can fit width, or we can fit height, or we can go entire view. If we go entire view, it makes it a little bigger. So why is this good? We know that all of our sales come from furniture, office supplies, and technology. We can see that they all make up about a third, and you can see that probably technology is a little bigger. Those would be the conclusions that you could draw from this. Now, if you wanted to get into some detail, I think with 3 categories, it's totally fine to show some labels, right? If I had, this is the example we had earlier, 20 different categories, I think the labels get really convoluted. It'd be better to show it in a bar chart. But with 3, let's go ahead and just pull category onto our labels. And now we can easily see this is technology, furniture, and office supply. And let's also pull sales onto our labels. Now we can see exactly how much it makes up. Yeah.
It's good if you put like the percentage in the body of the pie slice.
Yep. So let's go ahead and do that next. So right here, does everyone have this category on colors, sales on size, category on text, sales on text? Let's click into the sales that we just dragged into the text, sum of sales, click this arrow. And again, this will be a later night, but tonight's the night of sneak previews apparently. Where it says quick table calculation, if you guys click percent of total, it will actually give you the percentages that each one of these make up. So technology is 36.3999, furniture is 32.300. All right, and now let's say that we don't like how many decimal places are in there. Well, we already know how to change the default properties, right? So let's go back to the same sum of sales on our text. Click that same arrow and do, oh, we have to do it slightly differently. It's format, but then it's the same where it says numbers here. You can go to percentage and change our decimal places. Again, I just clicked the arrow on our sum of sales on our text. Format, brings up this little thing, it says numbers. Click the percentage, and you can change the decimal places here. Another cool thing that I like to do is make the labels match from a color standpoint. So if you click into labels, brings up this little text editor. You click into font, there's this really nice match mark color. So now technology will be red, furniture will be blue, office supplies will be yellow. So maybe make those bold because they're a little hard to see, maybe a little bigger.
Now we're cooking.
Now we're cooking. You can also, let's do one more thing. Let's drag our sales copy. Remember how we made that one like 2 hours ago that has the detail? Let's drag that onto label as well. So now it's looking a little convoluted, but now we can actually click into label, right? We did this earlier. See what I mean? Everything ties together. If we're making dumb charts, it's good practice. We click into the text, this little 3 dots. Here's the same little text editor. Let's make that bottom sum of sales copy like size 8 font. Let's put some parentheses around it maybe. Maybe make it italic and not bold. So now we have something like this where you see technology 36.4 and then in parentheses 836,000. Furniture 32.3, 742,000. So now you don't even need to hover, you can see everything just right here. Any questions on this or need me to repeat anything?
How did you change the color for the words again, please, real fast?
All right, the last thing, and then we'll call class for the night. Let's rename this. And this will be a quick one that's kind of cool. Pie chart. So I didn't actually make 3 pie charts today at work. I made 3 donut charts. What are donut charts? Do I have an example in here? Donut charts look like this. They're better for one reason, data ink ratio. You can get rid of some of the ink. It's not a default chart type in Tableau though, so it's kind of hacky. I'll show you guys how you can do cool stuff in Tableau if you know the cheat codes. This data ink ratio is kind of a cop out. Like, yeah, I guess. I just think they look cooler and they're not built in by default in Tableau. So anytime you build a donut chart, people know that you're like kind of an expert. You didn't just click the show me button. I think they're cool. I think they look nicer. I don't know. They really offer no additional benefit other than just like kind of flexing that you know how to make one. So let's learn. Let's click our little duplicate button that we learned about earlier tonight so we can keep our pie chart exactly the same. And this is called what I'm going to refer to from here on out like a hack or a workaround. Any of these like super fancy things that you guys see out in Tableau public of people, let's find an example right here. Like this chart type. This is not obviously a default chart type in Tableau, if it will load. This guy built this by understanding how Tableau works and like kind of hacking it to make this really cool kind of radial, I don't even know what we're looking at here. World Happiness Report in Finland, heck yeah. Okay, so we'll learn our first one. And this is how you do it. Click into rows, just click. Never mind, double click into rows. And it'll pop up this little pill with a blinking text thing. You can actually create your own data points. If you didn't want to drag in a data point, you just double click right here and create your own. But for the sake of this, we're just going to type the number 1 and click OK. So now it broke it. Don't worry, trust the process. Where it says sum of the number 1, we're going to click this arrow. And where it says measure sum, oh wait, no, that's not right. Right before it says measure sum, click on this attribute. So essentially all we did here, an attribute is just like a dimension. It's just a new data point. It's just the number 1. It gave us an axis. It goes from 0 to 2. We're just showing the number 1. Our pie chart is on the number 1. We're going to click into rows again, or double click into rows again, and do that same thing. Type 1, hit enter. It breaks it. Click the arrow, choose attribute. What this has now given us is it's just like we would have drug over 2 different dimensions like we did for our dual axis chart, except we made them up with fake data, just a 1 and a 1. We have an axis here with our pie chart on the 1, and an axis here with a pie chart on the 1. So it's actually just like this thing, right? We had the sum of sales and sum of profit, and we had 2 different axes, one for sales, one for profit, right? That's how we got these 2 different axes. Except now we have 2 different axes that are both just the number 1. You could have typed in 10 in there, you could have typed in Charlie in there, you could have typed anything in there, but we did 1. What this gives us is now the flexibility. Look, we have, just like our dual axis earlier, we have 2 different marks things. So we can change this pie chart by adjusting this stuff, or we can change this pie chart by adjusting this stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave our top one the same. We're going to keep this exactly as it is. We're going to click into our bottom one. Let me stop. Is everyone with me so far? Yes,
lost
no?
us there.
Well, is my screen sharing, or did I want me to repeat something?
It's good, it's good.
Okay. All we're going to do, not in this top one, but in this bottom one, is we're just going to drag all this stuff off. And that gives us just a blank gray pie chart. There's nothing on here. There's no labels. There's no colors. Nothing's on the size. Nothing's on the angle. It's just a gray circle.
Sad, man.
Yeah, sad. But what this is going to let us do, before we do this, let's make this gray circle, click size, make it just a little smaller. So now we have a big pie chart that we haven't touched, and a small gray pie chart that is just nothing. Now maybe you guys see where this is going. We can right click into the 1 on the bottom and make it a dual axis. And now, we have a ugly gray donut chart. But I like keeping it gray so that you can see what's happening. If you hover here on these ones, you can see we still have our normal pie chart. It's just being covered up. The center is being covered up by this little gray pie chart, which is nothing. So all we need to do is change the color of that gray pie chart to white. We need to make our nice pie chart bigger. We need to make our plain white pie chart bigger as well, whatever size you want. Okay, that looks right.
How do you change the color on the gray one?
Just click color. Make it white.
Yeah.
Then you can just click into our fake ones, our fake axes. Show header, hide that. Click into this one, show header, hide that. And now, none's the wiser. Someone would look at this and say, voila, you made a donut chart, even though it's actually 2 pie charts on top of each other. Yes?
Is there like a website where you can go to find these hacks?
Really, like I said this earlier, it's pretty spot on. How to make a chart in Tableau. Anything that you see is Tableau community. These are like user-driven things where someone will post a question and people actually respond to it. And they're like really good. Like I've been so impressed by the Tableau community here. See, this guy actually typed the word 0, did it here. But there's the same step there. And then obviously there's a lot of YouTube videos and stuff out there too. Or you watch the ODSA YouTube video. But as far as like a website, which is like every hack that you can make out in Tableau, no. There is a really cool, one of my favorite videos. 50 tips in 50 minutes. On here, and they each like take a minute and they just go through super. But there are some really good ones. That's actually, this video is how I learned how you can change the color on your tabs. There's like little things like that. I'll drop that link in the chat right now. Okay. Any questions on donut charts? Cool. For homework, and like I said, I do have to dip out. Feel free to stick around though. Build at least 3 of the charts that we covered. I don't know why these are bold. You can build whichever ones you want. Oops. Find a new data set only if you want. If you like one that you found and want to keep using it, that's great. Build at least 3. Text table totally counts. Gosh, last semester Charlie was a stickler. I will copy and paste this in the chat so you guys can find it easily. But I will also drop the recording, my Tableau public link, real quick before you guys put away your computers. Make sure to save, publish Tableau public so you can have all your examples from tonight. And I'll see you guys Wednesday. Any questions on homework or anything?
Cool. On the dashboard, right?
What? Yeah, dashboard would be great. All right, I'm gonna end the stream. Thank you guys. I will see you Wednesday.